Right, so welcome back. I stopped for a bit of lunch. Now, come back. I've got about an hour and a half before I've got to go. So I've got to be pretty quick. Get this all glassed up. That gel coat's tacked off now. Now we'll get the glass on. Where that's overlapping, get some resin under that bit so that there's resin between the two layers. So at this stage I shouldn't need to apply too much more resin, only on the dry areas, because the resin I've got underneath will come up through the cloth. So until you push the glass down, and then you can see where it's wet and where it's dry. So here you can see it's dry. There it's still quite wet, so you can see where you need more resin and where you don't. Obviously I'm going to need a lot more on there anyway because I've got more layers to go on, so that'll all come up through the layers then. I mean, on this first layer I can pour it over, I can get resin on like that, squidge it out, spread it around, it makes no difference. I can over resin this one and pop it on like that, because I'm putting more layers on the top and that's going to soak straight through that next one. So I'm going to line up this edge, gently push that into place, then work that resin through. This cloth soaks up quite a lot of resin, a lot more than you'd think. It's a very heavy cloth. It does use a fair amount. So. Very warm today. The other day when I done this it was a lot cooler and I didn't have to worry too much about my resin going off before I was finished. Today on the other hand is roasting. It's hot, it's very warm, about 22, 23 degrees, so this is going to go up a lot faster. Right, this front edge, I have one more layer to go on, but I'm going to stick the other side on first because I want this to interlock and I don't want it all to be built up and only locking on one side. So I want these two surfaces interlocked on the overlap here. So before I stick my third layer on there, I'm going to get the other side on. Just going to roll this gently. I don't want to remove the resin just yet, I just want to get out some of the air, just in case by the time I get the other side done, this starts setting up. I'll make sure the resin rolls through the glass nicely and the glass is consolidated. Without any excess resin blobs in there and air pockets. So I'm just rolling the air out and the excess resin there, and then just pushing the resin back on because I want to keep the resin on there. Air out is the main thing. Spread that resin around. It's looking pretty good already, actually, to be fair. But like I say, I've got another layer to go on there just to make that front edge a little thicker. Get a bit on the other side. Brush some more resin on there. You can see these glass wisps just hanging over there. Probably can't see it on the camera, but they're just coming down onto this side. So then when I do this bit, this will lock them in. Push that in a little bit. I need some more resin. Let's get this out quick. The longer it's in that pot, the faster it's going off, as most of you already know. Exothermic reaction means it creates heat, and as it gets hotter, that sets it off faster, which creates more heat, so it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, quicker and quicker and quicker. Right, there's a little bit there. I've just got a little bald spot. The glass didn't overlap too great. So there we go. I'm going to tie that in with a squidgy bit there. Dipple all this down. We're pretty quick with this. I'll say two things. One, I'm against the clock. I've got to get out of here on time. I can't be late. And two, like I say, it's very warm today, which means this will go off quickly. So, got to work fast. Right. So now this is all stippled down. It's got enough resin coming through. There's a couple of little dry spots there. But what we're going to do now is just apply some more resin for the next layer. So now we've got the glass in place where we want it. So without moving the glass around, I'm just going to dob some more resin on. You can pour it on, dob it on, whatever, but now I've got a layer of glass on there. I can pour it on, but I can't flow it out with the brush like that, because what I'll do is I'll drag the glass around that I've just put on. So this layer goes right over those and curves up that corner slightly. So I'll fix this one in place. Little pull. Spread that out with a brush like that. Now this end's wet, I can overlap this bit. A good overlapping joint there with the fibres interlocking each other. This is kicking up that back side there onto the front edge now. So that locks that in. Then two bits knitting together. It's all about just removing that air. I say the excess resin I'm leaving on the top at the moment. Just want the air out. Excess resin isn't an excess at the moment because, like I say, there's one more layer to go on. So it won't be excess, it will be absorbed into that. But air is your enemy, that's what I don't want. I don't want air in it. Trapped air is no-no. So that excess resin there, look, all comes out to the edge. I'm going to spread that back out. I don't want to push the air back in, so I'll just roll it out so the air bubble pops. And then I'll push the resin back. We've still got to get a bit more resin on and one more layer. And 2 on that front bit. I've got one more layer to go on here and then the final layer over the lot to lock it all in place. Nearly there. Right, let's get that last one on quickly. I'll pour that on. A bit of speed. Get that, as much of that out of there as possible quickly. Take my last layer for the front side. This is the thicken it up a bit. Fix that in place. This will lock over those layers now, so it's all tied in together. So we've got it interlocked, one layer over another. Get rid of that. It'll start going off if I leave it in that pot too much longer. It all ties in eventually, that's all it needs to do. And this front side, it doesn't matter if it's got a little overhang, it will be trimmed off afterwards. Dry along that front edge still. I've still got to roll that out, so as we roll this back, that will bring the excess resin to this front edge anyway, so just making sure I've got no air on that radius again, like the last one. So I need one more lot of resin, get that final layer on. See that air come out there, there's that excess resin. I can't say we'll use that, that's not gonna, it's not excess yet. Once I've done the final layer and I've got enough resin in it that it needs, that then becomes excess. I can run off the edge. There we go. Right, I'll give that a little rinse because it starts getting sticky sometimes when your roller stops rolling. Should be enough. I'd rather underdo it and knock up a little bit more if needed. Right, now we've got to get the next layer of glass on. So we're going to put a fair bit of resin down now. Elevate that slightly. Let's see if that will help us. Pour it on the upper edge and let it run down. On there for a second. we'll end up with a big puddle at the bottom. So this is just purely to get it on there, out of that tub. I want to drag the glass around, I just want to pat the resin on. There we go. So one, look at that, perfect. So it should have a good sheen all over, no dry looking spots. Then we got the final layer to go in there. Right, I'm going to try and line this up on the front edge and then work it back this side, leaving the excess on one side. What I'm hoping for is if I roll it this way, I won't get the air where you're dragging one side and then the other. So if I roll it into there, into that corner, once it sticks on both sides, if it's lifted slightly here, it doesn't go down very well. You end up sort of stretching the cloth into the corner. So where that big puddle of resin is, at that bottom edge, that's soaking the cloth nicely. I'm getting a nice puddle there. So these fibres will start to bend. Perfect. So now what I'm doing is I'm just attaching this bottom side first. I'm not rolling this properly, I'm just literally getting the resin through, rolling it out to stick the cloth to the previous layers. Again, this one's now gone left. Oh dear, it's shifting on me. So now that looks thin on this end. Oh, I don't know what to do about that, didn't you? We are sort of up to the end there, that's that overhang bit, but I don't mind making it a little big, because what I'm thinking is you get that triangulation on the ends, where the two are straight and they meet together, because it's moving in an angle, you end up with them butting up like that, and what you end up with is two straight edges that are at a slight angle, so I get that triangle gap. So if I overhang it slightly, I could trim that off at an angle and hopefully fill that gap. That's got some beef to it now, see that? Dry on that front edge, but that's coming through nicely now. Just need to get it all wetted. Right, now we're stuck to this side. We can roll that excess resin out and up there onto that other side, then we'll flip it round and get that stuck down. I'm hoping when I go up that side it won't then pull this cloth up. So we'll roll it onto that back side as we go from the bottom. That's the plan anyway. I'll quickly roll this out. See that as you pull that this way, it's pulling the cloth back. Which is what it does, it's, you know, it pulls one side off as you're rolling the other side on, which is what I'm trying to avoid by doing it this way. So now we're back into there. That should allow me to roll that side up without, so I can pull this side down into the corner without pulling this side in. That's the plan anyway. So now that should flip over. Bit heavy there. And then offside. And this has gone over the top of the mould, so I can trim that off afterwards. Right, nearly there guys, so a little bit of editing will shorten this up a bit. I'll say you see me make the one the other day, so that wasn't that long ago. We'll see how that works out. Doesn't matter if it don't, I'll cut it off and stick a bit in, but if it does, it saves me having to stick something in. Right, there we go, that's about done. So I just need to roll that out now and lose the excess. That's the other good thing about this dry edge here. So now I should, in theory, be able to roll that air out with that excess resin straight onto that edge, look, like that. You can see all that excess resin. Now we'll just drop that there, doesn't matter, look, we can roll it off with that into there. There's quite a bit there actually, so or I've got plastic underneath it. Swap rollers for a minute. Let's go large. So what I will end up with is some of that excess resin running back down the surface, but it doesn't matter. It will only then be sat on the surface of the laminate and can be sanded off. It won't be too much resin in the actual glass mix itself. There's that excess of resin there. It's sitting in that well at the bottom there. Again, just gently working this. You know, not forcing it down. Otherwise these serrations on that bolt, basically, on the fins, will cut into the glass. You know, I don't want to damage the glass. So I'm just gently working the air out. I'm working that resin to the front where it can run off there. Get rid of the excess. It's not needed now. It just makes it brittle. So squash that air out of that corner and then just work it this way, pushing it in the bubbles. You can see the air gathering at the front of the roller, in the resin there, and off. Go back over. So I tend to overlap by half at a time roughly. So cut a little stringy bits there that I've lifted. Again, you can leave them and just sand them off afterwards. I try to coat them all down so it all looks nice, but sometimes you just make it worse and it's better off leaving it. So a little bubble there, work it to the end and off it goes. Perfect. So Yeah, don't put loads of pressure on it, just the weight of the roller on it, just a slight firm grip, you know, you don't want to be pushing on it. That excess will go onto there, it'll just peel off if you, or you can bin that, put some clean stuff down, whatever. Then what you should have is a laminate that's built up and is pretty even the whole way across. It doesn't go up and down, it should be pretty uniform. Obviously, I mean, I made this overlapping a couple of bits, but as you wet the cloth out where it overlaps, if you work it with the roller, you can get it to lay down so it looks like one piece, so you haven't got a big lump there. So there was me joining the middle. It doesn't really raise up, you wouldn't know that I'd made that in little separate pieces to use up the odd glass that was left over. So with this sitting like that, some of that resin will pull down to that edge, but that can just be sanded out. It's not in the actual layers that I've bonded together now. That will just pull on the surface there and that can be sanded out. That's not an issue. Again, like with some of these little hairs that get plucked up, you can roll them down if you're careful, but sometimes, especially once it starts going off, you're better to just leave it and then sand them out later. To be honest, I'm pretty happy that that's gone well now. I don't need to touch it. I could tip this up this way. Any excess will then run down there, but I've also got to watch this front lip. I can move that, that's fine. Put that down there. I've got to watch that it doesn't lift up the edge of my glass there as you put it down. Don't want to knock it and lift those layers. But while that's still wet, I'll just run back over that like so. That's perfect. I'll let that set up now. We can trim that off next time we're down. Right, that's me done. Thank you all for watching. Alright, just quickly, so there's the one I've finished. And I've just laid another layer onto the one that we done before. So I've just made that a little bit thicker. I don't know if one layer's going to be enough really, but I've not got time to build it up anymore. We'll let that set up and see how we get on. Not bad. There we go. So when we come down next time, that's me two cubby hole lockers, whatever you want to call them, to go on this side. So now what we can do is we can start working out how we're going to fit them up there and tab them all in together. So I'm going to get it all stuck in and then we'll start glassing them all in place. Get them all bonded in first. So they're all stuck in place. Yeah, so once I've got them all stuck in, then we can fair them in. Glass it all round, tab them all in so they're all locked into place, they're not going to fall out, it's not going to crack, they can't drop off and all the rest of it. Then we can work out how we're going to fair it all, a little bit of filler over the surface, make it all look nice. So hopefully they'll transition nicely in there and look like they belong, not like they've just been plonked underneath and hanging awfully. That's the plan anyway. Right, my name's Dave, you've been watching Life of Dave. Thank you very much for your time and patience watching what I'm doing. It's much appreciated. Hopefully what I'm doing helps some of you to be able to do your own projects, shows you how to do it. It's not an exact guide of how to, but it's what I do and how I do it. And if you want to ask questions or you're not sure about anything, you're more than welcome to ask. If I can answer it, I will. But yeah, thank you for watching and I will catch you all soon. Bye for now.